Hello, PBL fans. Welcome to week 7 of our Battle League. This is Ian, coach of the Lake of Rage Ungodly Qwilfishes. And this week I am battling Corey, head coach of the... Damn it, I just looked this up. Rustboro City Vaporeon? It's the Vaporeons, I know that much. But I think it's Rustboro, but I'm not entirely sure. But it's Corey, that's for sure. So I'm just going to get right into it. I have a lot to talk about, but I don't want to ramble here at the beginning. So just going to press play and silence my phone. Here we go. So he leads off with Meloetta here. And that wasn't too much of a big deal for me. I did lead with my Zeraora here, anticipating that I would just be Volt switching out. But with the Meloetta in here, I am just going to be able to go for a knockoff way faster. And immediately I see he's holding the Iron Ball, which is pretty scary for me, because the second later he goes for Trick Room. He knows I have a very fast team, or at least fast compared to most, not as fast as it was. But getting off the Trick Room allows him to go first, hit me with a Zen Headbutt, and then I am able to finish her off with a Volt Switch. So that does allow me to come in for free with my Tikal, named in courtesy of Jacob for helping me out the past couple weeks. I don't actually know the reference, but it is going to be my Mesprit. But that does unfortunately allow him to bring in any kind of counter he wanted, and that happens to be the Goodra. So I do set up the Stealth Rocks because ironically I'm slower now, and he gets off an Outrage, which brings me down to very low HP, only 47 out of 187. So I am going to U-turn here, still being slower with the Trick Room, which makes me faster, and I'm just going to bring out my Thicky Minaj here, the Mawile. So this is twofold. I do get an Intimidate off because it is apparently a physical Goodra set. But I'm also going to be immune to the Outrage, so I'm not entirely sure if he was just trying to get hard damage on the Mesprit and was okay with a switch-in to negate his Outrage. I'm not entirely sure, but knowing that I'm going to get a probably free switch here, I do just go for a knockoff, and he is smart and brings in the Scizor, who obviously cannot be knocked off. So here he does Mega Evolve, probably anticipating me to switch. And he does go for a Swords Dance, anticipating me to switch. But, joke's on him. I have a Fire Blast, which I'm going to throw out of my stupid Piranha, Venus Flytrap mouth, I guess. Doesn't do enough to KO with the Stealth Rocks, and he is going to go for a Bullet Punch, which is still +2, which is going to bring me down lower than half. And unfortunately, I wasn't keeping track of the Trick Room here, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be slower or faster with the Sucker Punch, and unfortunately I was slower, so I didn't get it off. I also don't get the burn on the Fire Blast, which isn't really a big deal, but it is going to make me switch into Gyarados here, who does resist the Bullet Punch and is able to get an Intimidate off, so it is just going to be +1 again. So thinking that he might stay in and try to set up a little bit more, or hit me for like a super effective Bug Buzz or Bug Bite or something, I do switch back into Mawile here to bring it down to +0 again. So I am able to take that Bullet Punch pretty well. It is neutrally hitting me, and I'm about at 25% HP. And he is able to go for a Roost here as the dimensions have been turned back to normal. I actually expected him to switch out. I didn't expect the Roost, but just seeing if he was going to be like a support, bulky setup, or if he was just going to be full offense, I do just go for a knockoff, thinking that he might be switching. And if he does go for a Roost, it's not really a big deal. So 2 Roosts later, I do get a Fire Blast off again, and it does do about 60% damage, which is really nice because he's not going to be able to roost it off every single time. And hopefully I'll get a burn one of the times. It is a 30% chance. I'm sorry. Oh, I got stuff in my throat. So here he brings in the Goodra, free hugs again, and I do miss my Fire Blast, which is fine. It wouldn't have really done much, and this was going to be my third Fire Blast in a row, so I was kind of on track to miss one anyway. So here, thinking he might just go for an Outrage or be a physical set in general, I am just going to go into Detlef Shrimp here to Intimidate it down to -1 and hopefully take some kind of physical attack instead of like a Thunderbolt or something. And he does go for a Superpower. I think that was, if I was paying attention, I would know for sure. Which hits me resistedly, but still pretty hard. And I am going to switch into Thicky Minaj here again. Get it the -2 and force it out, if only for Leftovers recovery. That does force him to bring in his Scizor again. I'm going to heal up to about half with my Leftovers, and he's pretty low with the Stealth Rock, so I know he is going to have to go for a Roost. He's not going to be able to just hit me and bring me down with a single attack, so I am free to just stay in here and go for Fire Blast, which does end up connecting. Unfortunately, it doesn't do enough to KO, and it does not get the burn, but that's life, I guess. So I'm going to recover up a little bit more and switch out on this next turn. Switch into my Salazzle here, expecting to go for a Roost again on the Scizor, which he does. I knew that I didn't want to risk the Fire Blast accuracy multiple times, knowing that he can just take about 10% each turn. So this does force him out, obviously, and he goes into the Ludicolo here, which I anticipate, and I ended up going for a Fire Blast either way. I didn't want to run the risk of going for a Sludge Wave on the chance it did stay in, but I knew that a Fire Blast plus a Sludge Wave would take out pretty much anything, aside from the Goodra on his team. So he does get KO'd by the Sludge Wave there, which is really nice, and he sends in his Licka 9-Volt, the Zapdos. I know that Argonian made my Salazzle here is going to be pretty good for this team. It outspeeds almost everything, or maybe everything, I don't really remember, and it can hit everything super effectively, pretty much. So I'm going to just go for another Sludge Wave. He goes for Heat Wave. I don't know if he didn't have Thunderbolts or something, or if he just anticipated a switch. But the Sludge Wave is going to hit pretty hard, and then the next turn, just anticipating that maybe Goodra will come in, I am just going to go for a Dragon Pulse. It doesn't, and Zapdos goes down, and then he actually brings in the Goodra. So at this point I started doing some calcs, and I actually figured out that Dragon Pulse hits Goodra for less than Sludge Wave does, so I pretty much brought it for no reason. But knowing that I can pretty much freely switch into Wild here, I am going to, and he hits me with a Superpower, which actually does a lot, more than I would expect for a neutral hit at -1, but I'm pretty sure he is banded, so I am just going to be able to recover up a little bit, and I'm going to switch out a while here into No Homo. He's at -2 attack right now after the Superpower, so I know I can take anything, aside from, like, I don't know, Outrage maybe? I might even be able to take that. I'm pretty defensive. So I do take this, and I was very close to going for Clangor's Soul Blaze here, forgetting that he had the Mimikyu in the back. But remembering at the very last second, I end up just going for a regular Clanging Scales, just on the off chance that it does bring in Mimikyu, which he does, because it's smart. It's immune to both of my stabs. And he's going to come in immune to that, and I'm just going to have to switch into Thicky Minaj here again, as he probably goes for a Swords Dance, and does go for a Swords Dance. So I'm healing up a little bit here. I could play some Intimidate juggling games, but I decided to just stay in and go for a knockoff. See if I could just get some damage off, break the disguise. But he ended up going for a Shadow Claw. So maybe I should have gone for a Sucker Punch, but it's fine. So I'm going to bring in Detlef again here, get the Intimidate off, which is going to bring it back to neutral. And I'm going to Mega Evolve, knowing that he's probably not going to anticipate that and go for a Play Rough. So I'm going to resist any Ghost attack that he brings out. Still worried that he might go for Play Rough. I didn't want to go for a full setup, but I actually should have because he does survive on, I think Corey said, about 5 HP off of that crunch. It does go through the disguise because I have Mold Breaker, which actually kind of screws me here a little bit because if I'd KO'd, it would be fine. But now, because the disguise is still intact, I have to bring in Zeraora here to take a Shadow Sneak and then Volt Switch just to break the disguise still, even though it's almost dead, which is going to break it. And then I'm going to have to switch out into someone else who can try to actually get the KO on this thing. Problem is, my team is pretty low. The only Pokemon who can come in and actually take it are either weak to its Shadow Sneak or are low enough to be able to get taken out. So I have to switch into Argonian Maid here, sacrifice her, and bring back out Coltrane Baby, Zeraora, because I'm pretty positive I can take one more Shadow Sneak. And I do. I survive it with 10 HP, and I'm able to go for a Plasma Fists. I was really happy that Corey didn't have any Electric Immune Pokemon, because I didn't have to really dance around Plasma Fist in this game, even though I only used the one. So that one roll off of the crunch, because it had a percentage chance to KO, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was decent enough, meant that I had to throw out 3 Pokemon just to KO it in the end. But here he does bring out the Goodra, and I just go for a knockoff, revealing that he did in fact have a Choice Band. I did get the crit. I don't think it mattered. I obviously don't know his set, but I'm pretty sure it didn't actually matter in the long run. And he brings out his Scizor just to KO me with a Bullet Punch. I have nobody to switch into on the Scizor, so there's no use in really going for anything else. Trying to switch into Mesprit to, I don't know, get off some chip damage or something. So finally, I am going to bring in No Homo, who is going to take a Bullet Punch, kind of okay, but then go for a Flamethrower, which would just obliterate this thing even at 100% HP. So that is going to be the end of the game there. I actually kind of forgot that he didn't have Zapdos anymore at that point, so I thought there was going to be one more Pokemon to come in, and I was considering throwing out the Clangor's Soul Blaze at the very end there, trying to see if it would KO, just like Flamethrower. But then the match ended, and yeah, that was it. So this is going to be my first win for the season. It's pretty disappointing, but I don't know. What are you going to do? So next week I battle, I believe it's Jake. It's either Jake or Dan. I'm pretty sure it's Jake, though. And I always have a good time battling Jake. And yeah, keep watching. I will not be commentating that video, I don't think. I think I'm in here 2 weeks from now. But check back in anyway, and listen to Jake's commentary on our battle. See ya.